Well, another day in the history books. Let's go over it. So, it all started when I was woken up at around, I think it was like 9:30 by my mom. She needed me to move my car out of the way so she could go to work because my car was parked behind hers. So, I groggily got up out of bed, slipped on my sandals, got my keys, went in my car, turned on the ignition, and drove out of the way and said goodbye and that I love you. And then she drove off. I then drove back into the driveway behind one of the other cars and parked. And then I immediately went back into the house, drank some water, used the restroom, and then went to sleep again. I later got up at around like 11 o'clock, and my sister, my youngest sister, made the suggestion of maybe going to the Wendy's to get some food. I thought that was a pretty good idea, but I had just gotten up and I was pretty tired. So she let me acclimate to the day by drinking some water and then trying out a new coffee that I haven't had before called Cranberry Brulee. That was Nightmare Before Christmas themed, with Jack Skellington in his Santa outfit on the cover of the bag. It was pretty good. I liked it. Then, as I was drinking the coffee, me and my sister were chatting, and then uh, I decided to make the suggestion of maybe going to, or not going to, turning on an episode of The X-Files that I own on Blu-ray. And she said she thought that was a great idea. So I queued the episode up, and it was ready to go. And so we immediately left. Before we left, my sister decided to pay me for her portion for the sodas that me, her, our family friend, and my mom all bought together. And yeah, it was pretty good. As well as a little bit extra to go off to the pet store to get some crickets for her spider. It was for the gas. We then drove off. When we arrived at the Wendy's, we made some orders. Specifically, we wanted, I want a Baconator combo medium with a Diet Dr. Pepper. My sister wanted a smorgasbord of different things from a chicken sandwich, which she was actually saving for our sister, two fries. Again, one was being saved for our middle sister, who was going to be arriving later in the day, as a chili container, full of chili, and a chicken nuggets, and some, and I think like a regular like little burger meal. So we had all of that delivered to us. We gave the cashier. I gave the cashier my $20. My sister gave him like two 20s, and so we had to figure out exactly how to split that between the two of us. And we pretty much like came to a conclusion that it would be like $3 for me and the rest for her. I'm forgetting the exact number though, but yeah, that's what we came up with. We eventually arrived home, and when we arrived, we queued up the episode, and started watching and eating. This episode from the Y-Files was, sorry, the X-Files, my bad. The X-Files was called Ice. This was a very interesting episode. It was basically, if you've seen The Thing, it was basically just The Thing, but X-Files edition. It starts out with some dudes who are like in this like wintry looking like, research facility, but there's like two guys left and they don't really trust each other because they think they might be infected with like this parasite that they were exposed to. So the episode ends where they're both taken. They both leave the server, I guess, as were. Then we cut to the iconic intro music, and then finally to Agent Mueller and Scully being assigned this case and seeing some footage of the crew presenting themselves, going on this little expedition. So they were apparently given this assignment, and Mueller stated, yeah, they either think we're the best for the job or we're completely expendable. So they go like on this trip with like a skeptical like guy, this lady who's like, I guess, his assistant, and then like a pilot. And they all, the pilot drives them to that location. Um, the pilot's kind of like this schmarmy sort of like, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to. I'm kind of cocky and like a little full of myself, And then you have like one of the research dudes. There's like there's Molly Scholar, the skeptic, his assistant, and this other guy who like listens to sports and stuff on his pre-recorded on his cassette tape. And basically, they're like doing research. They're attacked by this dog, and what they find out when they put the dog to sleep is that apparently there's this like creepy like worm thing that like affects them, turns the host into an aggressive individual. And basically, this isn't very good, because like if the infection spreads beyond the base, then the whole world could be doomed. So the whole crew has to find out how to neutralize the threat, or keep it away from them at least. This freaks out the pilot guy. The pilot guy was attacked by like the dog, and then he becomes extremely aggressive, and it turns out that he was infected, and so there was like a little worm inside of him. And they take the worm out of him, but when they pull the worm out of the pilot, it ends up killing the pilot. So if you pull the worm harshly out of the host immediately dies. Pretty freaky stuff. And it's funny, they use a mealworm for like the smaller worm, but then they have like two larger worms, and they like look like super dated computer like generated CGI effects from like the early 90s. It was kind of nostalgic seeing like those old effects, because that was the best they could do at the time with a limited TV budget. So, and nowadays they can do literally anything with a like minuscule budget on like TV shows for Netflix or Apple TV or whatever. So, seeing what they had to work with back then was kind of a blast from the past, because I remember when I was younger, and I would always like, there'd be a distinct difference between like theatrical movie releases, because those clearly had much more larger budgets, and like more smaller TV productions, because clearly those were more constrained budgetarily. But now, like, streaming is like the new movie, like, or streaming's like new movies, or extremely long movies, I guess. Like you look at Stranger Things, or like, I don't know, just pretty much any decently budgeted like streaming show coming out, Pluribus, I guess. And they all look like movies now. Like we've currently reached a threshold where any like even like a decently sized budget like project can yield solid results if you have a great like team with a strong vision behind it. So yeah, it's pretty wild how far we've come. But anywho, watching so basically what happens is like they're scared that someone else has been affected, so they don't know what to do. They had a closing window of getting out of there within like a 3-day period. However, their only pilot that could have gotten them out of there is now dead, so they're like strapped in until like they can contact like emergency to come to pick them up. And so Muller's just going around the base, and then like he notices something weird in like the fridge, and when he opens like the fridge of the research facility, like a body's in there. Is the guy who pre-recorded his games on cassette tapes to really listen to him on his earphones. He's dead. So like that freaks Mueller out. But when everyone else walks in to see what he was freaking out about, they think that he took the guy out, and they think that he's infected. But he said, "No, guys, I'm not infected. Uh, he was like that when I found him." And they said, "How do we know we can trust you when you're not infected?" And it was like, I'm not. And so they want him to be tested, but he's like all upset and stuff because like he's being accused of something he didn't do. So they put him in containment because they're unsure if he's like safe or not. And then basically, like this is a whole who's really the infected one, because we know it's not Mueller. So, and we know it's probably not Scully, so it has to be either the skeptic or his assistant. And they do the whole red herring where the skeptic guy gets like all angry easily, like, and you'd think, oh, he's probably the one that's infected. But then they put little clues in saying, well, the heat in the building and like the constrained environment would probably make anyone really upset, especially if they're not used to that environment. And the lady assistant's not really like saying too much, so it's leaving a lot of room up for interpretation, only for it to be revealed later when Mueller does a little accidental discovery, where apparently they look under a stethoscope after putting 2 bits of blood of 2 different parasites in under the microscope, not stethoscope. Silly me, that's what you use to measure hearts. My bad. Microscope, and apparently like the 2 like worms like eat each other, and so they decide to take one of the worms and inject it into like the dog, and it like both worms like eat each other inside the dog, and then the dog has been cured. And so they think they're going to do this with Mueller, but Mueller says, "Yo, I'm not infected. If you put that worm in me, it's going to infect me. I can't do that." And he was like, "Look, you can inspect me, see, and because you're infected if like you got black like dots around like your back." And so Mueller like inspects or Scully inspects Mueller and finds out, yeah, he's not infected. And then before they leave the room, Mueller asks to inspect Scully, and so Scully allows him to inspect her, and no, she's fine as well. So they both go out, and they tell they tell him, "Yo, he's not infected. I inspected him." But then when they go out, the skeptic and his assistant like throw Scully into the containment room and lock the door, and they're gonna try to inject the worm into Mueller because I guess they didn't believe Scully, and they're super paranoid. But then when they're about to do that, the skeptic notices his assistant has a worm around like her neck, and like he he realizes what's going on, so he like she was the infected one all along, so they put the worm inside of her and she gets uninfected. And then the episode leaves where they are saved, and Mueller wants to go back to investigate the location, but he's told by Scully that apparently the United States Defense Department uh, burned the entire research facility down so no one could come back. And the reason why Mueller wanted to come back, return to reinvestigate, was because he believed that the infectious worm disease was proof of alien life, because there hadn't been any other creature like that on Earth ever discovered. So he wanted to confirm that, but now he can't. So yeah, that was the episode. It was pretty cool, pretty interesting. I've never seen The Thing, but I know it's about a group of scientific researchers stuck in the middle of like a cold, frozen tundra, who believe like one of them in the group is infected, and they don't want to risk getting infected. Except that film had much more grotesque special effects. So yeah. It's pretty interesting to see how one form of media inspires another. Although I would bet that The Thing probably had better effects than what we see with X-Files, but still really cool. A lot of fun. After done watching that, I decided to use restroom. When I was done, I was talking with Gemini about like the whole Strait of Hormuz conflict and how that's going, and apparently like both Iran and the United States still haven't reached a peace agreement, even though they supposedly signed a peace agreement earlier, but I guess that meant nothing. So like they're just going to continue fighting this out, and this is apparently going to cause certain economies like I think East Asia and Europe, parts of Europe, to completely collapse. So apparently the United States only relies on like, I think the percentage that I was given from Gemini was like 2 to 7%, something like that, of the oil from the Strait of Hormuz. We don't really rely on that much oil from them. The only reason why like it's affecting oil prices is because oil is charged at a global rate, not a national rate. So that means that even though it's we don't get a whole lot of oil from the Strait of Hormuz, other countries do, and because they can't get oil from that specific location, which apparently that location supplies 20% of the entire world's global crude oil supply. Because they can't get it from there, they have to outsource their oil from other locations instead, which drives up import prices, meaning that prices of like oil for certain locations in Europe could exceed of like $12 a gallon or something. And you thought that $4 to $5 a gallon was bad here. They got it twice as rough. Yikes. So yeah, it's pretty crazy world we live in, huh? Well, anywho, after that, I was like just looking through different just mindlessly browsing on YouTube, looking through different memes and stuff. There was one funny meme of like a guy saying, "You better start eating healthy because your future doctor's going to use ChatGPT to graduate." I thought that was pretty funny, but also kind of sad. Then my middle sister had arrived. I greeted her. She told me that she was going to be going to the big San Diego Comic-Con, and she showed me this website she made, Squarespace, trimcoast.com, I believe. And it was basically showing all of her really, really cool artwork. Yeah, I highly recommend checking out. You can also find her on Instagram if you want to see her art as well. My sister's one of the most talented artists I know, and I'm not just saying that because we're related. So yeah, pretty awesome. Then she told me that since she was leaving, she didn't want to put any pressure on me. She didn't want to feel like she was imposing, but she said that if I was interested, I could again babysit her cat while she's gone to this new con. And I said, sure, yeah, I'm down with that. So yeah, and then uh, she and my youngest sister went off on their epic adventure. And then after that, I remember I needed to. Oh, yeah, I did laundry. I forgot about that. I did laundry after watching the X Files episode, and then I put it in the dryer a little later when my little sister arrived. And then after they left, I took a shower. I listened to this interesting mantis story on like a YouTube channel called Mantis Encounters. It's like their latest video they released as of today. So that was pretty interesting. And then I took a shower. I got dressed and I left for work. When I arrived at work, I punched in. I went upstairs. I put on some moisture cream on my face because my face dried out from the shower. And I was in a rush to leave for work after getting out of the shower. And yeah, it was just a day of nonstop sweeping. There was a funny thing that happened where I was told I was doing a great job by my boss for getting my sweeps in on time. And then after that, like I was continuing to sweep, and I noticed my alarm didn't go off on my phone. I checked, and my alarm had it went silent mode because it was rubbing against my leg. I guess I didn't learn my lesson from last time, and so I was 10 minutes late on my second punch in, which was not good. I even thought about that when I told one of my coworkers, and like we even said, like, "Oh no, I've soiled the good name of the store I work at. Soiled it, soiled it." So yeah, we did a little SpongeBob reference. That was pretty funny. And then yeah, it was just lots of sweeping. Greeted all my coworkers, and yeah, I even updated my cashier coworker about what I learned about sour cream in coffee. Oh, I talked about this with my youngest sister earlier when I woke up, was drinking coffee, waking up to the day, talking about the whole sour cream, and we looked it up, and apparently, I think it was like in East Europe, that's like considered like something that they do. They kind of slowly add the coffee into their sour cream as they like mix it, and apparently that's how they drink it there, based on what Gemini told us. Not sure how true it is, but if that is true, that's pretty wild. And yeah, I told my cashier coworker, and he thought that was pretty funny. A person who's been working at the store for 30 years. So yeah. Then I took out the trash. I refilled the bags. I punched out for my lunch. Went upstairs, had my 1/5 of my turkey sandwich. Was eating that with mustard, mayonnaise, with chips. I was watching a new Jesse Michaels video about this physicist who has done research on like NASA photographs and potential, you know, life outside our solar system, and basically was talking about like these weird objects that are appearing on like the, you know, lunar photos, and like how there's a triangular object and like a what looks to be a disc-shaped object, and it was pretty interesting video. Not sure. He did state that some physicists would probably say it's just a refraction of like the lens of the camera that is being used to film or take a shot of the lunar surface, but he believes that it was a real object. So yeah, even brought up how Buzz Aldrin apparently mentioned that they were being followed by an unidentified object as well. So very interesting stuff there. After I was done watching what I could before backing out of that, I walked downstairs, punched back in, finished taking out the rest of the trash, including the produce trash, which I was asked to take out by a coworker. I ended up doing go backs, wiping down check stands 8, 7, 6, 5, and 3. My coworker said he would be wiping down 4, 1, and 2 for me, which I was very grateful for. I cleared the lot and I brought in carts and signs, and I was super exhausted. By the end of the day, I was like, oof, I'm ready for sleep. I then punched out for work. I said goodbye to my, oh yeah, before I left on my second break, I forgot to mention, my first break I did some Breath with Sandy 10-minute breath work, and it was nice. Felt nice, relaxed, body temperature cool down. It was very interesting. Moving on to the second break, I decided to ask my mom if she'd be interested in going halves on some pie and ice cream, and she said she would. So we got some pie and ice cream with the intention of splitting it together. So yeah, got that, put in the freezer, and then returned back to work, where I continued the duties until I punched out, got the food, came back down, said goodbye to my manager, went in my car, drove home. When I arrived home, I remember my mom said that she made a beef stroganoff, and so I was like, oh, I want to see what that is. So I found it in the fridge. I warmed it on the pan. I got out of my work clothes. I was greeted by my mom and our family friend. I apparently got this settlement cash in the mail that I wasn't expecting from something related to my work. I was like, whoa, that's interesting. I didn't know I was going to get that, but I got it. So yeah, that was an unexpected surprise, but a welcome one. I did get that light to find the any potential cat pee in my room. I gotta be honest, the smell has definitely subsided as of today. I don't really smell any faint tint of cat pee anymore, so I'm not sure if maybe the enzyme eating fluid I sprayed all over my room ended up eating the rest of it between when I reported on it and now. I tried turning off my lights and shining the black light in every surface I could possibly find, and I didn't see any potential indication that there was any pee marks anywhere. So I don't know, I guess maybe mission accomplished. I'm not sure. But I don't smell anything right now, so perhaps it is mission accomplished. Anywho, yeah, I then heated up the stroganoff. I put that in a bowl. I got a squirt soda. I went into the den and I decided to watch this interesting video called Fairy Tale Theater Pinocchio. It was hosted by Shelley Duvall. If you know who that is, she was the lady who was like perfect casting for Olive Oyl in the live action Popeye with Robin Williams in like the 1970s, and or was it the 80s? I'm not 100% sure. And she also was the wife of the crazy Jack Nicholson character in the movie The Shining. So yeah, those are like her two most iconic roles, I think. But yeah, she did this series where she hosted Fairy Tale Theater, and the reason why I decided to watch this was because the thumbnail had Paul Rubens of Pee Wee Herman fame as Pinocchio. So I was like, ooh, this looks interesting. I want to see what this is all about. So I selected that. I watched it with the stroganoff and the squirt. I will say the stroganoff was a little on the spicy side. It was a kind of spice where you can really only taste the spice and no flavor of the actual meat or noodles or anything. So I thought that was kind of a shame, but no, at least it filled my gullet. And it was all right. Yeah, all right. Squirt helps get the spices down. And yeah, the actual little 50-minute presentation itself was yeah, it was fun. It was a fun time. I liked it. And then I just got into this rabbit hole of like, oh my gosh, so many different like there was a guy comparing different GPUs from like the early 2010s and like the world's first GPU from 1999, or not the world's, but NVIDIA's first GPU, I guess is a better, more sensible term. And I don't really want to get too deep into it because there's a lot of detail there. I'm just going to say it was fascinating seeing all these different GPUs being, used in ways that I wasn't expecting. Like he used the PS4 GPU, and he even got into the story of how he got each GPU from like, eBay bidding and, all that stuff. They were interesting videos for a tech nerd like myself. And then I got even more into tech nerdy stuff by like watching like a DLSS 5 SIGGRAPH presentation where NVIDIA engineers were talking about how DLSS 5 is going to work. And then there, what else did I see? I remember I watched a video about like this like 70s animated film about like cats and like a cartoon cockroach. I'm forgetting exactly what it was called. But it was like something alley. It looked interesting. It was basically a documentary that went through the entire process step by step from beginning to end of how a animated film from the 70s was done. And it was like a film that looks like it was made around the same time as like the actual movie was, which made it interesting. So yeah, you never really see that technical process with those older like animated films. It's always kind of like, oh, people don't want to see that. They just want to see the cartoon. But the fact they went through the trouble of making that documentary show how the cartoon was made was pretty neat. Pretty neat. I like it when production companies do things like that. I found that very fascinating. And then I looked at the time, was like, oh my gosh, it's like 1:50 in the morning. Holy cow. So I got up and I decided to record this video. When I'm done recording, I'm going to take out the kitchen trash, take my vitamins, brush my teeth, and go to sleep. Oh yeah, but before I do all of that, I'm going to upload this bad boy. So that's going to do it for now. That was pretty much my day. It was a good day. Got really exhausted and tired by the end, but yeah. Overall, I'm glad I experienced it. So, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye for now.